This video is going to guide you through filling out the top flap of section number 6 in your Unit 11 Quadratic Relations flipbook. Here is your first essential question. How do I find the equation of a parabola given the focus and directrix? So if I know the focus and directrix, how can I find the equation of the parabola? Alright, well, let's take a look at our first question. Find the equation of a parabola with a focus of -2, 3 and a directrix of y equals -1. Well, the first thing I want to do, class, is I'm going to write out the vertex form of a quadratic, because the way you're going to build this equation is you're going to start with vertex form. Whoops, let's change color here. So we're going to start with y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So to build our equation, we're going to have to find h, we're going to have to find k, and we're going to have to find the value of a. Well, I can already see that we don't know what the vertex is and we don't know what a value is. We're going to figure that out. So let's graph what they've given us. The focus is at -2, 3. So we've got -2, +3, and this point right here, let's go ahead and label that as our focus. The directrix is at y equals -1. That's where every value of y is -1. So that's going to be here. Here's our beginning. And class, if you think about this, y is -1 here, y is -1 here, y is -1 here. So all those points put together give us our equation y equals -1. So let's connect those together to give us our directrix. Try to get this as level as I can. Sometimes it's not very easy. There we go. Let's go ahead and label this as our directrix. Alright, so we need to find our vertex first. We learned in the previous video that the vertex is always the midpoint between the focus and directrix. And you can see, to get from the focus to the directrix, we move 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So the middle of that is right here at 2 units below the focus. And that ends up being our vertex. So we can write our vertex now. Let's go ahead and write that up here. We just found that our vertex is going to be at -1, 2, and +1. So -2, +1. And we know that this value is our h value and this value is our k value. So we can write, so h is equal to -2, k is equal to 1. Now notice, class, I don't flip any signs. When you aren't putting h into a formula or taking it out of the formula, you just go with whatever the x and y values of the vertex are. So h is -2 and k is 1. We're almost there. Now we're going to have to find the value of a. And here is how we find the value of a. Use this formula. A is equal to 1 over 4p. Now remember, in the last video I talked about this value of lowercase p and how important that is. We need that value to find the a value of our equation. So let's go ahead and figure that out. In the previous video we explained that the p value is the movement from the vertex to the focus. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and draw an arrow right here from the vertex to the focus. That is our p value. And you can see that to move from the vertex to the focus, we are going to go +2. So our p value here is +2, or I'm going to put +2. You always start with the vertex and go to the focus. So if the p-value is positive 2, then we're going to go ahead and fill this out. This is 1 over 4 times 2, which is equal to 1 over 8. So our a value is 1 over 8. Now look, class, we've got our h value, we've got our k value, and we've got our a value. So now we can actually write our equation. So our equation is going to be y equals, take a look at our standard form, our form for vertex. This is our kind of our template for vertex form. Y equals a, which is 1 over 8, times x. Now, h is negative 2. When we put it in the equation, we flip the sign. So it's positive 2. And our k value we keep. So k is positive 1. It remains positive 1. And this is the equation of this particular parabola. So kind of going through this parabola, class, I can't tell you exactly what it's going to look like, but I know the a value is positive. That means it's going to be facing up. And I know it's very small, and that means your parabola is going to be very wide. So if you were to graph this, it's going to be a very wide parabola. Remember, the closer we get to 1, the closer we get to 0, the more compressed the parabola is, the bigger the value of a. If a was 10 or 12, the narrower or more stretched the parabola is going to be. So there is our first answer. Let's go to the next one. Here it is. Find the essential question. How do I find the equation of a parabola given its graph? So now instead of getting the focus and directrix, now we're going to just see a graph, and we're going to have to find the equation from here. You're going to see, class, the method is pretty much the same. So how do I find the equation of a parabola given its graph? All right, well, I can see from this graph right now, I can probably label a few things. This must be the directrix. This must be our focus. And this point right here, which is exactly between the directrix and the focus, that must be our vertex. So we can figure out right now that our vertex is at, looks like we're at 0, positive 1. That means our h value equals 0 and our k value equals 1. So we found h and we found k. Remember, whenever we're building an equation of a parabola, we're going to start with vertex forms. Let's write that up here so we see this. Y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. We've got our h, we've got our k. All we got to do is find a. Well, a can be found by looking at the value of p. And remember again, p is the movement from the vertex to the focus. In this case, to go from vertex to focus, we're actually moving down. So we went down 1, 2, 3 units. Our p-value is actually negative 3 because we had to move down to get from the vertex to the focus. So if our p-value is negative 3, we know that a is equal to 1 over 4p. And that's going to be equal to 1 over 4 times negative 3, and that is equal to 1 over negative 12. So here is our a value, we've got an h value, and we've got a k value. We've got all the values we need to write our equation. So here is our equation. Let's write it a different color so you see. We're going to do y equals a, which is, I can just write this as negative 1 over 12. You could have written it as 1 over negative 12. You could have also written it as negative 1 over 12. Those are all the same fractions. So I'm just going to put the negative out front. Negative 1/12 times x Well, h is 0, so I can put either minus 0 or plus 0, makes no difference. And k is 1, that we keep the sign. Let's go ahead and simplify this. We don't have to write the 0 there. So let's finish this up by writing y equals negative 1/12 times x squared plus 1. We can drop the 0 because it doesn't change the value inside of our parentheses. It's just going to be x. All right, let's look at our parabola and take a look at this. Negative 1/12 is a small number. The absolute value of this is 1/12. That's getting close to 0. That means we're going to have a very wide parabola. It's going to be compressed because the absolute value of a is less than 1. So there is how we find the equation of a graph based on the graph having a directrix and a vertex.